Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and joining me for the fourth day in a row to talk World Cup, his name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello, buddy.
Hello. Yeah, I'm excited to talk day 4, but first it sounds like we got to talk a little bit more about day 3.
Yes. So yesterday, the first goal that happened was France-Australia. Antoine Griezmann was taken down by Josh Risdon in the box, a VAR call. We were pretty confident at the time that it was a straight up. He missed the ball. He took Griezmann down. Definite penalty. VAR got it right. Most of the world agrees. Australia disagrees.
Yes.
Australia disagrees, obviously because it means more to Australia. But also there was a TV company called Optus Sports, I believe, a semi-reliable cable channel from what I've heard.
This entire time I've been thinking you were saying Opta Sports.
No, it's OPTUS.
I've learned new things.
So there's been a lot of Australians tweeting at us and at other people, look at the Optus Sports angle. But when you try to watch the video, which apparently shows Josh Risdon gets a touch on the ball as he slide tackles, but when you try to watch the video, guess what? This content is not available in your country.
It is not.
Unless you live in Australia. But old Taylor Rockwell and his deep Googling skills managed to unearth it.
AKA Reddit. Yes.
AKA
yes.
Reddit.
Alternate angles, alternate streams on Reddit are always helpful.
So what's the new take? What's the new angle?
Do
you have a new angle on this new angle?
I think maybe he does get the ball. I'll say that much.
Yes.
I'll say it does look like from that angle, he very gently gets it with the bottom of his studs. Risdon does.
Yes. I agree with that, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
I think it took a lot of views to see that, and it doesn't change anything for me.
Because he still takes Griezmann down afterwards, right?
Yes.
And so there's the very basic thing of, even if you get the ball, you still can't foul the guy.
Yeah.
And then if you want to if you're like diehard Socceroo and you just will not accept a penalty against your team, you could try arguing that, he kicks the ball away and then a whole new phase starts. It doesn't really work like that, right? For one thing, he doesn't kick the ball away.
No, I think what I have heard is it seems like the consistent argument is he gets the ball with the bottom of his cleats. Risdon gets the ball with the bottom of his cleats. It gently adjusts the path of the ball so that Griezmann then takes a heavy touch, which is going to go out of bounds. Then there's contact. So ball's going out of bounds. Then there's contact. Not a penalty. I disagree with most of that because, number one, I don't think he touches it enough to really change the course of it.
No, he just slightly pokes it ahead, continues it on its path, and maybe accelerates its velocity by 0.1%.
If that.
Yeah.
And number two is that we've seen penalties called many times where the attacker is going in on goal, goes around the goalkeeper, gets taken out, and while getting taken out takes a heavy touch. Ball goes out of bounds.
Yeah.
It's still a penalty because the player was taken out. And in this situation, in the box, the foot was clipped.
Risdon's other argument was that maybe not just that it wasn't a penalty kick, but because he got the ball, then there was no need for VAR. And I'm not buying that either.
No, nor am I. Nor am I, because I understand, Gary Lineker had a point about the fact that, opinion...
You've been watching some BBC,
he tweeted. The fact that opinion is this divided maybe means that VAR shouldn't have been used. And I do think, while I understand that sentiment, that's still opinion. You're still, it's not VAR based on voting. It's based on what the people in the.
Can you imagine if there was just a global vote on should we use VAR for this decision, or a global vote on here's the video, whole world, get your phone out, vote yes or no. Is this a penalty?
Here's the thing:
we're about 3 years from that happening.
That's the thing is I know FIFA and I don't love that you're saying this publicly because that does seem like a thing that might happen. I'll tell you what will happen.
It's 50p per vote.
I would be shocked if by 2022 Fox doesn't have that option of text us now to tell us whether or not it was a penalty.
Premium rights apply.
Yes, of course. So I do get why Australians are frustrated because
if that was in the US, we'd be doing the same thing.
We would, but
maybe not us, but people would.
Yeah, but I like to believe that I would be able to say maybe he touched the ball, maybe that adjusted the course of the ball. He still clipped his foot. It doesn't change anything for me.
Here's the big picture thing as well is. We watched that game yesterday.
Yeah.
That VAR decision wasn't a big deal to us. It wasn't a big story here. We talked to people afterwards and read the news and all that sort of stuff. It's interesting that only in Australia is this is big news. This is the controversy. This is what everyone's talking about. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just I sort of hadn't twigged with me that the World Cup is perceived differently all around the world.
Yeah.
There's a different story all around the world.
I think it's no different than that which is unique and particular to you does not necessarily resonate with somebody else. So I might have this great observation based on my life experience that Daryl is I don't care. That happens all the time. But I think, and this can extend...
that was a fascinating bit of trivia about DeMarcus Beasley, Taylor.
But that extends to national teams as well that I do. I've seen so many people responding responding to American fans saying, like, Saudi Arabia are there and we're not, with, like, yeah, no one cares. Like, and it is, and while that's harsh,
because they qualified is the correct answer.
Yeah, and I'll add myself to the list of people who are like, can you believe that the Netherlands and Italy and Chile and the United States, and I think you were like, maybe not the United States in that one. Like, you'd correctly call me out on that one, because it's not a thing that's going to resonate around the world the way that I think I like to believe it would, and I think this is the same thing.
Before we move on to today's action,
sure.
we are, by the way, we are recording this. This is sort of part one of our recording.
Yep.
We have just watched Serbia, Costa Rica. No spoilers just yet on that result, just in case. The other thing, say the story around the world in Peru will be Christian Cuevar's penalty kick. No controversy on that one. I mean, controversially put it straight over the bar.
Yep.
We gave our analysis of it yesterday. We were 99% correct in everything we said, except for one thing. We suggested that maybe his run-up was illegal because he stopped in the run-up.
Illegal, yeah.
After a couple of tweets at us, we have rechecked the rules, and you can stop in the run-up. You just can't do it when you get to the ball and feint a shot. So you can't like get to the ball, stop, fake right, then go left. That's illegal. But his pause in the run-up, la pausa, is not illegal.
Right.
Worth just us correcting ourselves for the record there.
Indeed. So I apologize for that.
Yeah. Okay, should we get to today's action?
We should.
Okay, so we have seen, as I said, Serbia, Costa Rica. Brief pause for those who don't want spoilers. It finished 1-0. It finished 1-0 to the Serbs.
I will say, if you're tuning in to a soccer podcast and you're maybe don't want to spoil it from the very first segment, maybe wait until the game is over to come listen to us.
Maybe people just wanted our Josh Risdon update.
They knew it was coming. They knew it would be there.
Hey, my policy is let's go all in on the spoilers. If we start getting a little casual, then we're going to get in trouble.
You're right.
Hello
You're
to
right.
Colin Marshall. Thank you for the email.
Discipline is key.
Okay, Serbia 1, Costa Rica 0. I don't think it was just that it was early in the morning for us, but the first half was not that exciting.
You are correct.
Fair?
Yes.
Why was the first half not too exciting?
I think it's because it kind of was what we expected. It was two teams that are naturally more defensive, setting up defensively. And then I think on top of that, some of the players specifically for Serbia, specifically Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, I think he had been tasked with being a more attacking player. He started in the number 10 role.
He was underneath Mitrovic, technically, right, yeah.
But I think whether or not he'd been told to, I don't think he had, because his teammates were kind of telling him to get forward. I think he made the decision to drop in and become like almost a third holding midfielder.
Yeah.
And that left, Mitrovic up top really by himself, consistently very stranded, very isolated.
My guess, I don't know this for sure, my guess is that Sergej Milinkovic-Savic just wanted to see the ball. So he was just very keen to come deep and get the ball. And if Costa Rica, when they defended deep, they pressed a little bit, right? But when they defended deep, it was that 5-4-1. It's very easy to get lost in that sort of forest of Costa Rican jerseys. So maybe he was coming deep to see the ball. I saw Milivojevic, the number 4 for Serbia, constantly waving Sergej Milinkovic-Savic forward. Like, get out of my house, go play over there.
So that is part of it. I think the other part of it is kind of like a conversation we had yesterday, which is that I thought there was a chance that Kolarov, and I thought Rukovina would start. He did not on the right back. Instead, it was Ivanovic went to right back. I thought
they brought in young blood, the other Milinkovic, number 15, 20 years old, I believe. They played him at centre back just to add, I think, a little bit of legs to the back four.
But I expected maybe Kolarov and Rukovina / Ivanovic to get forward a bit more. I did think Ivanovic was more forward in the first half. We saw some crosses for him. They weren't great, but he was in there. But Kolarov,
he's the wrong one getting forward.
Yeah,
right?
Kolarov was very much not involved in the first half, and I do think at halftime the key adjustments were fullbacks, specifically Kolarov, were instructed to get forward more regularly.
He's got a wand of a left foot.
And then there were times, we'll talk about that in a sec, and then there were times when it almost looked like they were playing a 4-4-2 with SMS.
In the second half.
Yeah, SMS, Milinkovic-Savic, partnering Mitrovic. And then once you get those two together, you get lots more link-up play, lots more connections between the two, and then you get more attacking options.
That made the second half more enjoyable, right? Yeah, Kolarov got forward down the left, served in some nice balls, but also Mitrovic was not just fighting for things, as he always does. Like, I think I was joking, he would like tear strips off you to get the ball. He's like a Ramsey. So Mitrovic was holding things up, laying it back to Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, and all those three things were really connecting in the end.
I don't know why you had to put that imagery in my head. It's not even noon yet, man.
It's too early in the morning for that. Yeah.
Come on. But yes, all of that leads to more attacking play from Serbia, more defensive pressure put on Costa Rica, which leads to more physical play, and thus a foul by David Guzman.
Who does he foul?
He fouls Mitrovic because I believe Mitrovic had held up play, got the ball back, turned, and then was dragged back by Guzman. Leads to a free kick, leads to a wonder goal from Kolarov.
Up steps Kolarov. So it was Ronaldo-ish in terms of Ronaldo's goal against Spain, right? Similar angle, except Kolarov approaches it left-footed, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And bends it weirdly through the middle of the wall. And I think the problem, obviously it's a wonderful hit from Kolarov. Yeah. We kind of knew he could get it on target, but there's no guarantee of a goal, right? Our concern is what the two centre guys in Costa Rica's wall are doing. When we rewatched it, we saw number 5, Borges, and number 3, Gonzalez. They jump up straight. They would have been in the way of Kolarov's shot. They turn their backs. When you turn your back, you get narrower. There's a gap. There's like a V-shaped gap suddenly in the middle of the wall. The ball goes straight through it.
Because weirdly, it's not even just that they turn their backs. It's that, like, if you're looking at a 4-man wall, it's the two in the middle. The one on, like, the center right turns to his right. The one on the center left turns to his left.
That's odd, yeah.
So it opens up that little space, and that's exactly where that ball goes through. If they had stayed together, it probably hits off one of their shoulders, maybe tags one of them in the face, but either way, it doesn't go in the goal.
Because you're right, they didn't even turn their back. They turned their shoulders towards the ball and open that gap up. So
and
that's
away
really,
from each other, which is really odd.
It's somewhat unfortunate. I think it's maybe just one of those. I disagreed with you on Umtiti yesterday, but I think that's one of those just normal human reaction things of the you know it's better to be straight and occupy the most space, but there's some human instinct to
protect your face.
Protect
I get
your
that.
Face. That's
I mean, I get
thing,
that. Yeah.
Protect your
Just
face.
put your head down. Only show them your forehead, and you're fine. That's how that works. But it goes in the back of the net. It's 1-0 to Serbia.
Yeah.
Seems like they had other opportunities. Mitrovic had a few, especially there's one played through by SMS, but he couldn't finish. Just had a little bit, not even a heavy touch, just a no touch that didn't set him up properly.
There's going to be, I think, a thing to look for with Serbia going forward is that Mitrovic, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic partnership really looks like it's on, right? SMS had a lot of nice little drag backs and moves, and there's going to be a great thing of the battling centre forward laying it off for the silky smooth, skillful, creative partner. That's going to be fun to watch. It would be perfect if Mitrovic was a bit more deadly. And I think what we saw today is he just lacked that bit of, I don't know what you call it, like acceleration and finish type thing. Right? I could picture a lot of other strikers finishing some of the chances he had just through being more direct.
Yes.
Yeah? Or just having a better touch.
I'm going to chalk it up to nerves. I'm going to say first game of the World Cup, lots of pressure on his shoulders. We'll see how he responds in the second game.
You know who didn't have any nerves? The Serbian coach, Kristajic.
Yeah.
He, early on, was faking out Costa Ricans.
Yep.
You seen this? So once Serbia are up, right, it's a game of running the clock down. A lot of the time the ball will be coming towards Kristajic on the sideline. I actually don't know his history, but I'm pretty confident he used to play. See, I think he was a centre-back back in the day. He's certainly good enough to control a soccer ball. What he kept doing was just letting the ball run to him, pretended he was going to control it to give it back, and then he'd either walk away, let it run under his foot, pretend he can't play soccer anymore.
I mean, it's just time wasting.
Yes, it's genius is what it is.
Genius?
Well, I mean, it's clever. It's clever.
I think it happens more often than we think. It's just that one happened to be caught on camera twice.
We saw it twice, right?
What was also caught on camera, which is what I want to talk about, is I would say a more controversial usage of VAR in my opinion, in that it was not used. There was a bit of a scrum at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
Matic wanted to take a throw quickly. A Costa Rican assistant held the ball up, wouldn't give it back to him.
Which, by the way, none of that makes sense. It was Costa Rica chasing the game. Matic should have been happy to take the throw or the kick slowly. Costa Rica should have been the ones in a hurry. I have no idea why that happened.
I think it was because they had a situation in which they were taking the throw, and I think it really was like 2-on-2. So maybe Matic just thought, this is a chance, we'll throw it over the top. Put this game out of reach.
So he was after a quick counter.
I think so.
See. That makes more sense.
And I think that's why the assistant didn't want to give the ball up.
Right.
But what happens is that bench is clear. There is a little bit of a scrum. And in that scrum, second half substitute Daniel Colindres
number 9.
Costa Rica. He definitely slaps Milivojevic, I believe it was. Milivojevic in the face. Like, definitely, you can see it very clearly. To his credit,
right-handed to the left cheek.
Yeah, Milivojevic does not respond at all, which is to his credit.
He really takes it, right? His head moves to the side and he just comes back like he's a Terminator.
It's straight out of a movie, exactly. Yeah. It's the slap, right, left, and then he's fine. But that was on camera. They did, I guess, like there was a suggestion that it should go to VAR. You saw the center official hold his ear. Who were the commentators? Derek Ray and Ali, I've forgotten her second name, I'm sorry, Ali Wagner. They said that the yellow light is blinking on our screen, which says that there's a video assistant review. They are looking at something. I'm guessing it's that. I'm surprised they didn't give any cards for that. Yeah, as am I. And then there was a yellow given later on to Prijovic for a second half. like an accidental quote unquote swipe.
Why wasn't it a red? Because he definitely, I've forgotten who it is, but he definitely reaches back and hits that guy in the face.
I think it was Gamboa. I believe it's just because he was running away and there was a slap, so I think you could make the argument that it was like unintentional but still dangerous, so you get a yellow, so not necessarily malicious for the red.
Okay, so a good win for Serbia. You could see they were very happy about it at the final whistle. A rough loss for Costa Rica. I'm worried that this 5-4-1 Costa Rica thing might not work out this World Cup. They still got to play Brazil later on.
Speaking of Brazil, we're going to be talking about them later on, but first, we've got to get to Germany-Mexico, so spoiler alert.
3, 2, 1. What a result. What a game.
Woo.
I enjoyed that.
I did too.
So, spoiler warning's been given.
Yep.
It is Germany 0, Mexico 1. This is a huge result for Mexico, a huge result for the World Cup.
Absolutely.
And a huge result for Germany, but in a bad way.
Also, absolutely.
So it was Chucky Lozano dribbling in from the left, coming in from the left, finishing with his right foot. We did sort of predict this in our previews, but I think anyone who's seen Chucky Lozano do this a million times for PSV and for Mexico knew that this could be coming.
Yeah. But it's a little bit like, I hear that Babe Ruth fella was good at baseball. So, he might be good at baseball.
He's going to hit that ball with that bat.
He might.
Shall we talk? So here's my version of this game is this is all about Juan Carlos Osorio's planning.
Agreed.
Yeah? This is all about Juan Carlos Osorio having a long time to prepare for Germany, thinking about exactly what he's going to do. The danger was always, will he over-prepare and do something too clever, too complicated? I'm going to say no, and I have the evidence is my result.
I'm going to agree with you. We did have a bit of nerves there when some of the substitutions were made. I think you and I both thought maybe he was making some defensive substitutions a little bit prematurely.
Yes.
Didn't end up being the case, and I would say I do think some of the narrative coming away from this game is going to be Germany fought, but Mexico were just defensively solid and defensively resolute.
Get out of here with that.
Because I would say go back and watch that second half again. Germany get lots of chances, but most of them are either half chances or chances from outside the box or semi-fluky chances where like the ball is flicked on and somebody's there, but somebody else blocks it, but then there's a shot.
There's no clear-cut chance like Chucky Lozano had, right? When he cut on, I believe it was Mesut Ozil in the end, and shot at goal. Yep. Yeah, so maybe we'll talk about how Mexico defended against Germany later on, but I think people will want to hear about the goal.
Absolutely.
Right? So, as we said, Chucky Lozano with the goal. I think you and I have watched this, and we've watched earlier stuff from Mexico in this game. I have a good idea, you have a good idea of what Osorio's plan for Mexico was.
And that plan is Javier Hernandez.
It is. So what I think they do is, Chicharito, Javier Hernandez.
There are more people on this planet than just Chucky.
I'm sorry.
Chucky, Javier Lozano. There we go.
Chicharito, Javier Hernandez is the centre forward, but he doesn't stay with Hummels and Boateng. He doesn't just stand on their shoulder and try and run in behind. He keeps peeling away, checking to the ball, but a long way, right? It seems like he will suddenly take off and sprint deep and make himself available.
Yep.
So this happens on the goal. This happens in the very first minute of this game. If you go back, people may not remember if you've only watched the game through once, right? But the very first minute of this game, Chicharito comes deep, lays the ball off. It ends with Lozano getting almost in on goal. It's basically the same move.
It is. Yeah? And I would say, then the response might be, but isn't that normal? You always want your forward to check to try to win those long balls when played up to him. I think the difference is that when it is an intentional tactic and an intentional approach from Juan Carlos Osorio, and every player on the field knows Chicharito is going to be checking into that midfield space. He'll be dropping into the center circle. I can ping the ball in there low, and he will be there to at least contest for it. And I think back
Hector Moreno also do it a lot.
Hector Moreno. The other one that stood out to me was Hector Herrera, where he I think
pronunciation, by the way.
Thank you. Mexico. I try. Mexico partially clear a corner, and Herrera chests it down and is running towards the sideline.
This is not the goal, right? This is just another moment.
This is just another moment. And I think for most players, it would just be, I just got to hoof it up the field. We'll get our defensive shape again, or maybe I'll try to dribble it, but maybe I'll get dispossessed. But Herrera takes it out of the air with the chest and then hits it on the volley to the feet of Chicharito about 30, 40 yards away.
Because he knows where to look,
And then everybody, because they know that's going to happen, you can see 2 or 3 Mexican players stepping forward aggressively, or at least one player on their horse, and it means that they know exactly, ball's going to go to the feet of Chicharito, he's going to lay it off, and we're away.
But here's the thing, I think it's more specific than just he's going to lay it off. To me, he always laid it off to, if he's got his back to goal, to to his right, which is down Mexico's left flank, Germany's right flank. That happens in the first minute. It happens in the, I don't know what minutes the goal scored, like 30-something.
35th.
Happens in the 35th minute, right? There's the ball. It's so, let's get to the goal, right? It's a Hector Herrera tackle. He was magnificent this game. He was everywhere. He was like a number 6 and a number 8 all combined. He's a number 14, Hector Herrera, in midfield. I think it's Moreno then plays the ball into Chicharito. He lays it off to his right, down the left, to Vela, back to Chicharito, and then he does it again because then Chucky Lozano is bombing down there, squares it to him. Lozano cuts on Ozil and scores. The reason I explained all that is because I think the Mexico players know that pattern is coming, and therefore they're always a step ahead of Germany because it's a pattern they've practiced.
It is, but it's also a pattern from Germany that they've observed, and that pattern is getting Joshua Kimmich into the attack.
Yes, so Germany's right back, Joshua Kimmich.
We talked about this in the preview, that he is a chance creator. He scored goals for Germany in qualifying. He assisted on goals in qualifying. He wanted to get forward. We saw him do that a lot, especially in the first half.
A lot.
But then, if you think about that for a second, if your right back is aggressively stepping forward, it's no surprise then that when Chicharito goes to lay that ball off, he's always looking to lay it off into the space where Joshua Kimmich has theoretically, or in this case, most likely, vacated.
He definitely has. We've rewatched this, and they've got the nice big wide angle. You can see Kimmich is all the way up the field because it's a Germany attack, and he likes to pull wide and spread the field for them. But he's left that hole there. I think that's why it's Mesut Ozil who's scrambling back in the end. It's too far for Kimmich to get back in time to intervene.
Yeah. And it's great work from Chucky Lozano, because in that moment, I'm sure there's an inclination to shoot right away because he is like rapidly advancing, take that one time, maybe get a shot. I'm sure he also had a momentary thought of, I could try to square it. Chicharito's in the box. I believe Vela was also in the box at that point, but instead he takes a smart touch, gets around the defender, gets that shot, beats Neuer to his near post. It's a well-taken goal, and on the top of the fact that it's probably an 80 or 90-yard full sprint run, to then have that control in that moment of pressure is amazing.
Here's what impressed me most about what happened next. Mexico were very, very calm. There was still 10 minutes till half-time, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to add that Wells Fargo did not pay me to say that Lozano was amazing.
Mexico were very, very calm. Played out the last 10 minutes of the first half in a really controlled way to make sure they got to half-time. They may even have got a yellow card for time wasting towards the end of the first half.
Oh, they Ochoa did.
He did.
For sure, yes.
But that's a smart way to just make sure that we hold this result, get to halftime. Do you remember yesterday or the day before, we talked about the difference between Cristiano Ronaldo's deep breathing before he takes the free kick, and Christian Cueva's fast, puffed out cheeks breathing before he takes the penalty for Peru. First was successful, the latter was not. You saw Juan Carlos Osorio after the Chucky Lozano goal, sitting on the Mexico bench, deep breathing, making sure the coach makes good, focused decisions. I think he was flashing back to the Chile game when he said, I kind of panicked, and he didn't want to get his emotions get the best of him, so he can plan out successfully for the rest of the game.
I think it was Sarah Tay on Twitter. If it was not, I apologize to whomever it was, and I apologize to Sarah Tay for mentioning her on the show. But the key thing in there with the deep breathing, she followed up on Twitter to say that it's about you inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth, and that tells your body that you need to relax, or it facilitates your body relaxing,
That's
releasing or removing tension. And if you watch Osorio, he is very visibly inhaling through his nose, exhaling through the mouth. He is trying to lower those stress levels.
And here's what happens then. Second half, in hindsight, we can definitely say Juan Carlos Osorio made excellent decisions to see this game out. We were sitting there.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. I just looked at my notes. I apologize before we get to the second half. It was Hector Moreno who got the yellow for time wasting.
It was.
My mistake.
Okay.
I apologize.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
So anybody who already tweeted at us, I corrected myself.
You can go back and delete the tweet.
Whatever.
So second half, Mexico come out. They did have, before we get into second half, they did have a defensive plan, right? It seemed to me, someone mentioned this on Twitter, then we observed it in the game. So I want to give credit that it was mentioned to us before we saw it. Mexico seemed very happy to show Germany inside, right?
Yes.
So if they send their fullbacks high and forward, you think they're going to attack you down the wing. Instead of letting Kimmich get down the wing and get a cross in, I can't remember any time Germany got to the end line and crossed, or got to the end line and cut it back. They would instead show Germany inside and make them play sort of at the top of the box in midfield instead of out wide.
Yeah. And I mean, and you could see it because I think at our level where we play, it would just be eventually we would just start lumping in crosses because nothing else is working.
Slightly lower than World Cup level.
Slightly lower, but when you're playing at that level where it's been drilled into you, that is not what we do. This is how we attack. This is how we play. If you're Germany, I think you could tell that they had been told we do not cross the ball in. We don't just lump it into the box and hope something happens. Only in moments of desperation at the very end did they go for that. Every other time
almost worked, but that's why all those chances were very scrappy half chances. Yeah.
And so every other time you'd see them kind of recycle possession back around and either shoot from distance or get dispossessed, and away Mexico went. The one outlier, I would say, and it's not just because we love him, is very late in the game, Thomas Muller cuts inside and then does that like reverse pass through the Mexican defense, and it doesn't quite come off. I think it either goes out for a corner or it gets selected.
Like a low through ball.
Yeah, but I think that was the one moment when a German player picked his head up and thought, this isn't working, I'm going to try something a little different, and it almost worked. Outside of that, again, I don't think Germany had any clear-cut chances, and that wasn't even a clear-cut chance.
Here's my read on how that works is we had talked before about Timo Werner, and his value is running at pace and getting in behind, which he did a couple of times. Remember the Kimmich ball early on?
Oh, yeah.
But when it's a crowded box and Germany's trying to just open the box and get something through, he's not necessarily that guy, right? Because there's not enough space between the penalty spot and the end line for him to sprint in behind without being offside.
And then you get those moments because he doesn't have that strength to rely on. You get moments of not necessarily panic, but maybe poor decision making. So the one people might remember is Timo Werner going for that overhead kick in the second half.
Yes.
And I watched that thinking, like, that's a weird, like, there's usually better delivery. And you watch it again. Marco Reus is wide open behind Timo Werner. That's why you see Yogi Löw look very angry afterward. It's because they're not taking those opportunities wisely. You can see the panic
Marco
starting
Reus
to creep
had his arms
in.
open like, what are you doing? That was coming from me.
Yep.
Yeah. One other thing I want to shout out in terms of Mexico's defensive shape. They did a thing I've never seen before, and I get nerdily excited about defensive things I've never seen before. They did the compact thing where everybody's crowded in the box. But then also, to prevent Germany being able to play wide, they would have one guy pop out all the way wide. So I remember seeing everybody crowded in the box and the ball's towards Germany's right side. But over on the left, Miguel Layún for Mexico is just away from the pack, marking someone else.
I think you got the sides flipped, but I'm still with you on that one. Yeah,
he's on Mexico's right side, Germany's left
exactly.
side.
Yeah. It's always very confusing when you're talking about like a player facing one way but playing for one team, going the other way. Yeah, it's all odd. But yes, and it's not just that he goes wide to mark a player who's open. It's that he spaces himself perfectly so that there is a gap between himself and the right back who's tucked very much inside. But if you're going to play into that space, it's so deep that you're almost always going to either put that into the touchline or put it into a space where it can be intercepted by a Mexican player. But you then can't switch the ball, so you can't start to try to stretch that defense at all. And in a way, it's already stretched. So even just moving the ball from right to left, Layun's already there. So it basically, if you try to bring it over to your left side if you're Germany, you're going to have to stop midway through because there's already a player there. So it just kind of cuts off all options and eventually suffocates.
Again, I mean, it could all go wrong at the World Cup for Mexico, but right now it looks like Juan Carlos Osorio has studied Germany, made a plan for this game, a plan that definitely worked, and executed it. His players have executed it perfectly. The part we got nervous was when he started going very defensive very early. Just a quick list of the subs he made. Carlos Vela, who was the attacking mid, was replaced by Eduardo Alvarez, who came in and plays a more defensive mid. So you've immediately moved one person back, right? Then Andres Guardado, who's definitely a two-way midfielder, was replaced by Rafa Marquez, 39-year-old Rafa Marquez, for 20 minutes. Shout out Cesar Hernandez, who basically predicted that on this podcast.
And then I think just before that, Irving Lozano had been substituted with your man.
Yes, Raul Jimenez, who recently signed for my team, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
If I say your man,
I wouldn't say he covered himself in glory in this because he ruined one counterattack for Mexico, but he became part of it as well. But essentially I'm saying Osorio made more and more defensive substitutions as he went. And you can tell from our voices, we were excited for Mexico to win this game. And as Taylor said, not because Wells Fargo told us to support Mexico, not because Landon Donovan told us to support Mexico, not even because we are charmed by the Marco Fabian, it's Fabian moment in the commercial, which is actually the funniest part of it, but just because I love to see a team executing a plan against a theoretically bigger, better team, and then through that plan being able to match them equally. Worth supporting.
It was an excellent game to watch. I think it might have been, even with Spain 3, Portugal 3, this still might be my favorite game so far because it was just so interesting from start to finish and so tense from start to finish,
Was
all
tense, right?
across the board. Because especially with how good both teams are, and especially how good they are playing on the break, that you really couldn't. Even when Germany had a corner, I was still like, "Ooh, Mexico could score at any moment," like, and vice versa. It felt exciting from start to finish. And as we've already said, we're recording this before Brazil-Switzerland.
Yes.
So Brazil-Switzerland, you got a lot to live up to here.
Before we get to Brazil-Switzerland, we need to address issues of office nutrition.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Today's sponsor
Are you concerned?
is...
Okay.
I'm not concerned because today's sponsor is RX Bar, a whole food protein bar made with 100% whole ingredients.
That's right. We have a box of RX bars in the office. Did they send them to us? Was it a promotional item? No, I went to the store and bought them because they're just that good.
So RX Bar did send us a promotional box when we first started advertising for them. And to prove that we do believe our own ad copy, we went out and bought a box of... What flavour did you get us?
I believe I got us like chocolate mint chocolate.
I'm looking at the box now. It is
Yes.
very minty coloured. Yes,
It is.
A box of RX Bar mint chocolate. Here's the thing. You can really taste the mint and the chocolate because the way RX Bar is set up, because there's no sort of preservatives or additives or filler, the flavours that it says on the box, they really are the flavours in your mouth.
That's right. And if you get an individual bar, the flavors on the front would be like the core ingredients, egg whites, dates, almonds, just kind of straightforward nutritional things that will help you feel better about yourself, because otherwise we'd be eating garbage on garbage on garbage.
And no BS, it also says on the wrapper. So genuinely, we know we've got a month of World Cup coverage. We're going to be in the office more or less every day. There's a nice little break between round of 16, group stage and round of 16 of one day.
All right.
But when we stocked up, we really thought we need to make sure there is not any junk food in here because that is bad for our health.
There's still some junk food. We still have a giant container of animal crackers left, as well as a couple other things. But yes.
Well, RX Bar is classing it up a bit.
100%. 100%.
And if you're interested in new flavours, there are also some new RX Bar flavours available. Mango pineapple was recently launched, peanut butter and berries, and chocolate hazelnut. They've also expanded into the world of RX nut butter. I don't know what nut butters are, but they now are sold by RX Bar. Good news for our listeners, you can get a discount on RX Bar. Where do people go for that, Taylor?
To get 25% off your first order, visit rxbar.com/soccer and enter the promo code soccer at checkout.
So you got to do both things, rxbar.com/soccer and enter the promo code soccer at checkout. Thank you, RX Bar, if you're listening, for sponsoring today's Total Soccer Show.
We very much appreciate it. We very much appreciate you, because what you make is delicious.
And we'll eat you tomorrow.
Slightly less delicious was the Brazil-Switzerland game. Do we do spoiler alert?
Well, let's give the spoiler alert now. Let's give you 1, 2, 3. If you haven't hit pause by now, we're going to tell you the score. It finished Brazil 1, Switzerland 1. World Cup set.
Yep. Ish. I mean, in the sense that like it wasn't a loss. It probably felt like a loss to Brazilian fans.
It looked like a loss at the end, right? The Brazilian players were walking around as if they just suffered a heavy defeat. That's not what happened. And Switzerland are no mug, so it's not the disaster that it's maybe felt in the moment.
Maybe not, but I think it's, if you're Brazil coming into this, breezing through qualifying, looking very solid. I mean, we were both very much sold on Brazil coming in as this kind of unstoppable juggernaut. They seem pretty stoppable on the day.
Because we really did all our research, and by the end of it, we thought Brazil are the favourites. We really feel it. And first 20 minutes,
seemed that way.
We thought, Brazil are the favourites. I think I genuinely turned to you and said, this is the team to beat.
Yep.
That's the level of conversation we have while we're watching games.
Indeed.
But then it all turned around. But should we start with the good stuff first? Because that first 20 minutes, they zipped the ball around and Switzerland didn't really have an answer.
No. And I think it was Brazil taking it to Switzerland, trying to get as many shots as they could, really trying to kill this game off or at least get that early goal.
Well, I thought they were doing a good job of working it so that they were trying to create high-quality opportunities, right? And they inched closer and closer to the Switzerland goal. It ended with Switzerland cowering in their own box, right? Because they'd just been forced back so far. And I think that's how Coutinho was able to score.
Well, that's what, when we did the extended preview for Switzerland, I talked a little bit about how I expected them to very much sit back, be at like the top of their 18, really try to block off passing options and just frustrate opposition, but that they could be stretched, they could be pulled apart a little bit if you want to go that route, or if you're Felipe Coutinho, you can just rip a shot from about 25 yards out. But I do think it's because they're backing off a little bit and giving him space.
Yeah, because if you watch in the 5 seconds before this goal, it's basically there's a cross goes in, a Swiss player clears it out to Felipe Coutinho, but all the defensive midfielders, even like Granit Xhaka, and I believe even
Barami?
Number 15, Barami's definitely in there.
Oh, yeah.
Number 15, Jamilia is in there. Everybody's dropped back away, so there's no one to give any pressure on the ball to Felipe Coutinho. Coutinho. That's why he's able to hit that shot so beautifully. If you really think about it, he's hit shots. If you've seen Liverpool play when he was there, he's hit shots from much farther back than that. So it's actually quite close for Coutinho. He's 25 yards maybe?
Yeah.
That's definitely shooting range for Felipe Coutinho.
Gets to play from easier tees than he's used to.
Yeah,
and it worked out well for him.
Yeah.
But then I think it didn't work out well for Brazil after that, and I think it's because they maybe took the foot off the gas a little bit, or
Definitely.
just changed the approach.
I think I'd heard some other people say that Switzerland did something to come back into the game. That's not how I see it. I saw Brazil pressing Switzerland in the first 20 minutes whenever Switzerland had the ball, made it really hard for Switzerland to play, won the ball back immediately, started working them back. As soon as they'd scored, Brazil, the next time Switzerland had the ball, you saw everybody, more or less, back behind the halfway line. And it seemed like they were content to just soak it up, let Switzerland do whatever they do, and then the plan seemed to be eventually hit them on the counter, which they did a couple of times. And I think I disagreed with, I saw a little bit of the Fox Sports halftime coverage where they seemed a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I thought Brazil had a plan and it was working, and I would have put good money on Brazil scoring a counter-attack goal in the second half.
Yeah. I would say...
I would have lost that money.
Yeah, you would have. I think the thing that I disagree with you on a little bit is that I do think Switzerland did some things. It wasn't just Brazil backed into their own half and then Switzerland got lucky. I think that when you go defensive, if you're playing against a team that really their entire game plan is just counterattacking, then you can really put them into a hole by making them come out and try to have like sustained attacking moves. But Switzerland have
that's
talent.
what Brazil were trying to do to Switzerland.
But I think Switzerland have talent. They have the capability to possess the ball and move it around and find options and earn set pieces, which is what they did in the second half. They got that corner. They took that corner.
Do you remember how they got it? It was Shaqiri.
Yes, that's right.
He pulled a sort of Cruyff-ish move and I think bounced it off of Miranda to win the corner kick.
But I do think that if you're Switzerland and you're kind of being bombarded in those first 20-25 minutes, it's probably like shocking. It's an eye opener. But then when Brazil sit back and you're like, oh, okay, we got a little bit of a breather. It's like in the horror movie or in the action movie when like the enemy stops attacking or the bad guy can't find you and there's like the night where they're able to recuperate. Like once you get that minute to breathe, you get a little bit more confidence, you get your feet back under you, and I think you can grow into the game to the point where then you maybe do some sneaky maneuvers and get a little bit aggressive and you get an equalizer.
So let's talk about that corner kick.
Sure.
I actually don't know, but I'm assuming it's Shaqiri serves it in. It is Zuba heads it, smashes it past Alisson, unchallenged. I have a lot of thoughts about Brazil's defensive setup on this corner kick.
Okay.
I'm very wary of me just talking too long, though. So first, maybe I want to get your thoughts.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so definitely Brazil are marking... they're marking... It's not called marking because it's a zonal system.
There we go.
Brazil are using a zonal system, which is where you do not man-mark each player. Each player instead is responsible for an area within the box. And then when the ball is served in, the idea of the zonal system is that you're then responsible for attacking the ball and clearing it.
And that's the key thing.
Yeah, that's the key thing. It's theoretically a more proactive set-piece defending system because you're not worried about just making sure your man doesn't get the ball. You're worried about making sure you do get the ball. And a lot of confident teams, the Brazil are a confident team, will use the system just to make sure they win every set piece.
Yes. Now, we're going to get into some of the contact in just a second because I know there are people wondering about the penalty shout. But I would say the key thing when you say attacking your zone is that you have to go and aggressively try to meet the ball because if you're not marking a player, if you're not marking a man, then you don't necessarily know where the opposition players are, but that doesn't necessarily matter in a zone because you're trying to win the ball first. Yep. But if everybody is kind of standing still, not many people jumping, which they weren't for Brazil, then you don't really attack the ball. You leave it open for an opportunity for Switzerland.
So nobody jumped, right? I think part of it is the way I look at this zonal system is they were maybe too close together. So it's not quite clear whose responsibility it was to attack the ball. I think it was Miranda's responsibility, the centre-back. But Zuber manhandled him. You remember Zuber gets, I think, an arm on the shoulder and then pushes him.
Yeah.
Zuber pushes him away just before he jumps. I mean, you see Miranda complaining afterwards. I would argue this is on Miranda.
You think?
There's going to be pushing and shoving and tugging in the penalty area. You've got to be stronger, right? You can't just get pushed out of the way and your guy heads the ball. You can hope that you get a free kick for that, but what you need to do is be too strong to get pushed out of the way. Miranda's a centre-back, right? This is like some tiny fullback got pushed around.
Yeah. I mean, I still think if you get pushed in the lower back, there can be an argument to be made that prevents you from doing any sort of jumping, but I think if you're going in a zone and you're attacking the space, then my idea is that you're moving towards that ball. You're going to try to win that ball in the air.
Yes.
And if you're sort of slowly backpedaling and trying to get in a position where you're then backpedaling into the opposition player.
Yeah. That's how Miranda ended up starting contact with Zuba.
That's where the contact comes from. And then Zuba definitely does a little bit of shove when they start moving forward again.
He grabs his arm, then shoves him away. Yeah.
But I think
not
it's
quite Diego Costa level. But
and I think it's a correct no call. I did want to add because there was this one. There was the one in the 74th minute when I believe it was Gabriel Jesus and I think Akanji tangle. Gabriel Jesus goes down.
I'm glad you brought up Akanji.
I will more on him in just a sec. But I wanted to say, because I know there were some people very confused as to why those two incidents didn't go to VAR, why they weren't looked at, and the answer is they were. They are, like, that video replay crew is observing, I think, everything. They are reviewing all these plays. It's only when they think there's something that the referee has missed or needs to be viewed by the referee, the center official that is, that they then radio that down.
That makes sense
So
to
it
me.
seems like the crew looked at both of these and said, no, there's nothing obvious that was missed.
The crew in full referee kit, by the way.
Of course.
I would say, I'm not sure they definitely spend 5 minutes reviewing everything, but I'll bet they take a quick look at most things and just yeah or no. That's worthy of more attention or it's not. So it's not as if this has gone completely unreviewed.
And I think there are moments. There was the one yesterday in the Argentina game, which I think should have been a penalty. They radioed it down to the referee, and I think he basically said, no, I saw him get the ball, so it doesn't need to be reviewed. It's just that I disagree whether or not the ball was gotten. But I think if there is a moment, they'll radio it down, and we saw that earlier in the day with the Serbia and Costa Rica game where he said, no, I don't need to look at it again. It's fine.
Good job remembering this morning's game.
It's been a while. But yeah, so I think it's questionable for me, the Akanji Gabriel Jesus one, because there is a little bit of contact, but I also think after there's contact, Jesus then kicks out again to try to make additional contact.
Yeah, you pointed this out to me as we were watching it. There is a contact where, first of all, Akanji grabs him, he gets an arm around him, but then he lets go with that arm, he gets another arm around him, lets go with that arm. I think Akanji is very smart, but he's only 22, central defender I really like. He does just enough to make it okay. And then in terms of the legs, we took a good look at the legs, right? He's really just holding his ground, Akanji, and essentially Gabriel Jesus feels a bit of a 50-50 contact, and then isn't it? You pointed out to me that you think he leaves his left leg behind and tries to get hooked by Akanji and just brushes his leg against him, basically.
Because there is contact. There is contact initially, but then on I believe Gabriel Jesus' left foot, but then he takes another step and then plants off that one, and when he does, that's when it looks like it goes laterally to try to make the contact. I think so. I would say it could be 50-50. I could understand if it were given. I think you could make that argument. I think the difference here in compared to, say, Germany-Mexico is that I think Stu Holden talked about this. I don't think the center official did as good of a job. I don't think he did a very good job policing this one compared to, we talked about it, the time wasting where the ref kind of made it very clear you can't, you're going to get
in
booked.
Germany-Mexico?
Yeah. And just, I think, really locked down any sort of time wasting, any sort of foul play.
Yeah.
And so that didn't happen in this game, and Akanji had a couple. He had one where he leveled Neymar. I think it was a decent. I think it was a good challenge, obviously a physical challenge, but there was no talking to there. We saw when Neymar started getting hacked that the whistle would come, but it would come a couple seconds later. There weren't any cards, and I think if you want to try to break up that sort of physical play,
Barami definitely got a card because I think he had to sub out. In fact,
there were definitely cards. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that it was more so if you want to stamp out physical play, as soon as there is that leg sweep, you give that card and you make it clear, I'm going to call that. If you don't call the two physical plays on Akanji, you're probably not going to call the third.
I get it. I think I may be biased because, so full disclosure, I wrote the story for The Athletic. We co-wrote a story for The Athletic of 10 possible breakout players at the World Cup. Akanji is a guy that Borussia Dortmund just signed him January, 22-year-old defender who I think has a lot going for him. So I was very much invested in his performance in this game against Brazil. And I may be biased, but I'm certain that he delivered in this game. He gave a mature and youthful performance at the same time, if that makes sense. He made a lot of veteran-type decisions, but had the pace and energy of a young man.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Do you want to say anything more about Akanji?
Just the one thing is there's a very good moment in the first half. It's after Brazil have been soaking up the pressure and are going to hit Switzerland on the break, where actually Brazil end up having the ball for quite a little while. And then there's Paulinho, I think, springs a beautiful ball through the middle of the Swiss defence and to Gabriel Jesus, and it looks as if Jesus is in on goal, and it's Akanji that is over there fast and then is smart enough with his positioning to force Jesus to go wide. And as Jesus tries to go wide, Akanji is then just too quick. Telescopic legs is what I call it. He steps across and then gets a telescopic leg tackle, and I think Jesus is surprised that nothing more came of that. So yeah, but I'm really, really thrilled about Akanji's performance.
Because I think if he doesn't do that step, it can either be a shot or it could be squared to whomever is trailing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good move. As you said, what'd you say? Pace and energy of a young man with smart decision making.
Of a veteran.
I would say we saw the pace and
the long legs of Inspector Gadget.
All right. So I think we saw the pace and energy of a young man, but maybe not veteran decision-making when it came to Neymar.
Oh.
And he is the one that I would like to talk about for a good long while.
Yeah. You think we saw the pace and energy of a young man with Neymar?
Of an injured young man. Of an injured young man.
So we are of the opinion, as a pair, that Neymar possibly should not have played in this game and definitely should have been subbed out at some point. He was even though he had some impressive moments, he was a net negative to Brazil on this day.
I agree. And so I know we'll get responses saying, but look how often he was fouled. Look how much he was involved in the second half. And my response to that would be, look how little Willian was involved in the second half. And that wasn't because he had a bad game. That wasn't because he couldn't get on the ball. It's because I think when Neymar is there, he wants that ball. He wants to be on it. He wants to be creating.
Kind of demands it, right?
And I also don't think that's the worst thing if it leads to combination play and team possession. But it felt like too often Neymar wanted to be the one to get that winner, to cement his legacy as though it isn't already cemented that he's a world-class player. But instead it felt like he was doing too many step-overs and dribbles. And yes, he drew fouls. But I also don't think
that breaks the rhythm, right? That breaks Brazil's rhythm. They'd be better off if he would just lay it back to someone in central midfield and they spray it wide to Willian and the ball keeps moving and zipping around. That's much better than a Neymar Cruyff into two people and then he manages to win a free kick. That's not that helpful to Brazil if he gets a free kick at the halfway line. And
so he drew fouls, certainly, but he also, multiple times, I saw him just pass the ball to a Swiss player. I saw him dribble inside into traffic and get dispossessed, or shoot from a bad angle and then put it wide. It just seemed like he wasn't as focused on combining through the middle, linking up with other attackers, creating sustained attacking play as much as he was having moments of individual brilliance.
And there is one thing that we should have mentioned here, is he came into this tournament recovering from an injury, right? I think he came back in the last friendly or two and got 2 goals against Croatia, I think. So people were thinking he was definitely back.
But Chichi said he's carrying an injury.
Yep, and he said... Didn't he say basically he won't finish the game? I'm not sure he can go 90 minutes. It looked to me like he should have been pulled after the 60th minute or so.
We kept expecting that to happen with every substitution. We kept expecting maybe Coutinho will go forward and they'll drop somebody into midfield, and that's when Neymar will come out.
The Renato Augusto sub, when we saw him coming on, I really thought it was Renato Augusto for Neymar and then Coutinho forward and Renato Augusto into midfield in his place.
Or I thought when Fernandinho came on, I thought it might have been for Neymar and then you push Coutinho there, and then you have Fernandinho springing passes from the middle.
And then when Firmino came on, I thought it was going to be a straight swap with Neymar. Instead, it was for Gabriel Jesus. So here's the thing. In the previews to this, when I was convinced that Brazil were like my favourites to win the World Cup, one of the things I said is that they're not over-reliant on any one player. And I really thought that the footage I'd seen, Neymar was just part of a more collective whole, and he was just one talented part of it. But what I saw today, especially in the second half, is Brazil kept giving the ball to a below par, below fitness Neymar. And that really concerned me when you've got talent, like really good talent like Willian going to waste on the right. He's like withering on the vine on the right because they keep sending the ball over to Neymar, who would then be a little selfish with it or a little slow with it. I even remember one moment when Marcelo is definitely ready for a combination play and he set it up to spring Neymar down the left wing and Neymar just doesn't run. Remember that moment?
Yeah. So it is a worrying sign if you're a Brazil fan. The positive sign is that it's a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
You are still very much alive in the group.
If a 1-1 draw with Switzerland is the worst thing that happens to you, you're having a fine World Cup.
I'm slightly frustrated, though, because I very much wanted Brazil to win this group, because if they had and Mexico managed to win their group, then we would have had Brazil-Germany in the knockout round, which would have been terrific.
Yeah.
We still may get that. We may get any other combination.
Who knows? I'm not ready to talk final group standings just yet.
I think my pride is a little bit hurt, though, because I was so confident about this Brazil team. I was pretty sure they were going to cruise through this group. And now I'm just thinking, what do I really know, Daryl? What do I really know? The answer is the office quotes.
Well, don't undersell yourself, Taylor, because I think your preview content for the last couple of days has actually been pretty good.
Master the segue.
So Sunday's in the bag.
Yep.
We have reviewed Sunday's games. We're looking ahead to Monday. if I'm honest, this is the day I've been looking forward to the most because it's
really?
Sweden-Korea at 8 a.m. on Fox Sports 1.
I know you're a big Sweden-Korea fan.
It's Belgium-Panama, 11 a.m. on Fox Sports 1.
And then that's it.
It's Tunisia-England, 2 p.m. also on Fox Sports 1. It's England's first game. We're saving the best till last with our previews, but also chronologically.
Something like that.
So, Sweden-Korea. Sweden-Korea. Let's get into it, Taylor. This is your 8 a.m. game.
Yep.
Don't believe Fox Sports 1. It's not 7 a.m. It's 8 a.m.
It is indeed. For Sweden, we think it'll be the standard 4-4-2. The question is...
Standard Swedish 4-4-2.
I mean, they've played it since, I believe, the year 700. The question is, will they be slightly more attacking?
Leif Erikson invented it.
I'm not sure he's Swedish, but okay. That was a good one. But yeah, the question is, will they be more attacking? As we know, as we talked about previously, Emil Forsberg is their most threatening attacking player.
Yes.
Will they go through him? Will they try to play a little bit more attacking, play a little more aggressive, get more numbers forward? That's the question.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the numbers back.
Sure.
Because what we've seen we saw it in the Italy playoff game, but that's one thing. But we've also seen it against sort of similar tier European opposition. Sweden play that 4-4-2 and they collapse, right? They get 2 banks of 4 pretty deep and they get narrow, right? They collapse deep and they get narrow, fullbacks tucked in, and just invite you to cross. They say, yeah, cross all day. Victor Lindelof will head it away.
And Andreas Granqvist. That's the other one, the veteran center back, the marshal of the defense.
I'll be honest, I couldn't remember his name, and I was hoping you would sort of complete the pair for me.
I absolutely will.
But and then against South Korea, Korea have all kinds of pace up front, right? In Son Heung-min and Hwan Hee-chan. So it makes sense to me that Sweden sit back deep and don't let Korea use any of that pace in behind. So the thing I'm really interested in is, does Coach Jan Andersson, because he thinks we're Sweden, we're better than Korea, we're going to take it to them. We're going to just rely on Forsberg's creativity. He really is like a good little dribbler and crosser and passer,
If you want to hear more about him, you can read our article for The Athletic.
Yes, you can. Actually, I haven't read your part yet, so I look forward to that. Theathletic.com/soccer. If you want to get a discount, theathletic.com/TSS World Cup. And Marcus Berg. Marcus Berg is a genuinely good striker who is thriving now that the shadow of Zlatan Ibrahimovic has been lifted. Yep. Excuse me. He is Sweden's go-to guy.
He and Ola Toivonen, we think, will start up top.
Yes.
The question, I think you've answered the question, because I do think they probably start in the more defensive shape for the exact reason you mentioned, because you mean
Crouch, the defensive crouch.
Exactly, because you've got those attacking players in Korea, Song Heung-min especially.
And then Spurs, if people don't remember, that's the Spurs player, Son.
Correct. But then you've got players for Sweden like Mikael Lustig, who I know the fans very much prefer to Emil Kraft, who's the other option at right back. But I saw him play.
A lesser of two evils type situation.
I think so, because I saw him. He had some very reckless challenges. He could have conceded a couple penalties. It seemed like he was targeted by Italy in the playoff game. So I think you want to maybe keep him back as opposed to get him stretched.
I've just put two things together. Son Heung-min tends to drift towards the left, right? So we could see a lot of situations where Son is running at Mikael Lustig first. There's probably more Swedish players then stacked up behind him. But that's a matchup we may see.
Speaking of seeing situations, if only there was some way to be able to observe the Korean team to see exactly what they're going to do.
You'll need to rent a house because so this story came out, I believe, today, right? Yep. Janne Andersson, the Swedish coach, had to apologize to Korea because they had sent an assistant coach, Lars Jakobsen. Lars Jakobsen had apparently been renting a house across the street from Korea's practice facility, which is in the mountains.
That's the key.
They were trying to be very discreet. It was a closed session. People were not supposed to go watch this. Lars Jakobsen was caught watching. So Sweden had to apologize to Korea and said, okay, that's not so cool. Shin Tae-young, the Korean coach, responded by saying, for one thing, he was actually quite polite about it. He said, yeah, I understand we're all doing what we can to try and watch each other. But then he also said, we deliberately switched numbers and shirts to confuse Sweden, so hopefully they haven't picked up too much. I don't know if they actually did that.
I feel like they didn't.
Or if they just, now they're bluffing to try and confuse Jakobsen and Andersson.
He did also make a comment about how maybe his players might look alike to the Swedish coaches?
Yeah, he said Western eyes are not so good at sort of differentiating between Asian players.
We are dancing around this one. But yeah.
So, he said it. I don't know if he was, I think he was joking, right? As in that's a little just jab back at Sweden. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll see. But I do feel like that was a little bit of I didn't want it anyway. Sort of moment. But yeah, we mentioned Son Heung-min. I will add though.
Hwan Hee-chan will be his strike partner probably. I don't know South Korea's formation because they play all kinds of different ones.
They didn't know their formation coming into this tournament. They had experimented with the back five, with the back four, 3 in the midfield, 2 in the midfield, 4 in the midfield. I really don't know which one they will opt for, but I do know
2 players that will play, though.
Well, I want to go back to Son for a second, though, if you don't mind. Son Heung-min, because you're absolutely right. He will likely either start on the left wing or as like a left-sided attacker, but by all accounts, he tends to maybe try too much for Korea. Basically similar to what we just talked about with Neymar.
Trying to get that military service exemption.
True. That he'll maybe try too much, try too many shots from distance, or try to make something happen. And he can maybe try to overperform for Korea and not in a good way. So see how he responds.
He Neymars it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
2 of the players I would just...
You know that I literally just did say that, right?
Did you know?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Good to know. Good to know we're listening.
Well, the truth is I was looking at my paper.
Gotcha.
There were 2 more players I think are worth shouting out. Ki Sung-young, who used to play for Swansea City, was briefly at Sunderland. I think you'll see him spraying passes around midfield. He's very good at sort of diagonal sprayed ball. And Jang Hyun-soo, the centre-back, is wild and reckless and weirdly enjoyable as a centre-back. So keep an eye on Jang Hyun-soo charging forward to make tackles. Him versus Marcus Berg, I think, could be an interesting matchup.
We shall see.
And if he gives away free kicks, Emil Forsberg's scoring them.
Beautiful. 8 a.m., that was Fox Sports 1, Sweden v. Korea. At 11 a.m. on Fox Sports 1, we've got Belgium v. Panama.
And I promise for this preview, you have the exact amount of my attention that is required.
So like 12%?
Yeah.
For Belgium, we know there'll be a back 3, but the personnel back there might be a little bit surprising. Vincent Kompany, Thomas Vermaelen will both be out for this one.
In injury shock. Thomas Vermaelen and Vincent Kompany in injury shock. It's a hamstring and a groin, respectively.
So we think it will be... we think it would be Diedrich Boyata starting as part of that back 3 alongside Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm not sure defence is going to be their key concern against Panama, though. Belgium are going to play this 3-4-2-1. I think one of the guys to watch is Yannick Carrasco, who we talked about in depth on our group-by-group preview, but he is rapid and he is quite happy to run at you down that left flank. Also happy to leave some holes behind him, though. So
this is true.
He better be careful.
I think Thomas Meunier, who will start as a right wing back, I think he will be equally important because I do think for Panama, who are going to be compact, one way to try to cause problems, to try to create holes, is to get numbers forward, numbers wide, so that maybe they get a little bit stretched. Then you can try to play through the middle. So I think the advancing wing backs will be a key part of Belgium's attacking plan. And
speaking of key parts of attacking plan, the obvious names to shout out are Eden Hazard, who will be dribbling all over the place, really exciting player, and Romelu Lukaku, who I think is very good at finding space, finding opportunities. I think against what will be a compact Panamanian defence, that will be interesting to see if Hazard can dribble in the very small spaces he's allowed, and if Lukaku can find those runs in behind in the very small spaces he's allowed. I'll tell you what, if he does find them, he will gesture towards where he wants the ball to go, and if he gets that ball, he'll give the teammate a thumbs up.
He will give his teammates a thumbs up. Whether he gives Roberto Martinez a thumbs up remains to be seen. That's the other big question mark for me. There's lots of criticism of Martinez coming in, partially for his selection policy, partially for just his kind of coaching history and how he'll respond in a very pressurized environment. If things aren't going well, if it's 0-0 at halftime, if it's 0-0 in the 60th minute, or if they're trailing, it'll be interesting to see how he adapts his game plan.
Yes, pressure will mount on Martinez the longer he's not winning this game, starting in minute 2. I imagine.
And I think there will be considerable pressure on Panama. Their lineup indicates that they are prepared for that pressure.
How do we know the lineup? That's weird, isn't it?
I believe their manager announced it at a press conference.
Yeah, that is fascinating, right? The starting 11 has been announced. I don't think it's worth reading out the whole starting 11 because I think most people listening to the show won't be familiar with all the Panamanian players. But the highlights of the starting 11 are what? A 4-1-4-1 shape, and a couple of older, slower, experienced names have been dropped. So, Machado, who would have been the right back maybe, not starting. In his place, Mikey Murillo of New York Red Bulls fame, who is a lot quicker and I think a lot better with the ball when he gets forward.
Yep.
We lose Machado's long throws, but long throws not been too successful so far.
Not
this
so much.
tournament.
And that is an 11-year age difference.
Yep.
Similarly, we're going to get Felipe Beloy sitting on the bench in favor of Fidel Escobar starting.
Centre-back.
That would be 23, 37, 14-year difference. So I think right now there you're saving 25 years, which is a human. But I think there's a reason for that. I think they want a younger, faster defense to be able to handle some of the physicality and pace of Belgium.
I think that's what's happening, yeah, because you've also got arguably their key defender is Roman Torres, who, if you're a Seattle fan, you know all about him. He's had a hamstring injury on and off. He's been declared more or less fit for this game, but there are questions about his lack of pace, questions about his fitness. He'll win balls in the air, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Lukaku or Hazard or Dries Mertens might be too fast for him on the dribble. So keep an eye on Roman Torres.
And then 2 more players to keep an eye on. I'll take one.
How many eyes we got?
You can take the other one. I believe 6 between us. I would talk about Jaime Pinedo.
That's a mean glasses joke.
In your face.
I've made the joke before. Only I'm allowed to make glasses jokes.
Jaime Pinedo in goal for Panama. The one thing to note about him, in my opinion, is that I think he's very good coming off his line, making that decision to come out quickly and smother opportunities. I do think at least a couple times in this game he's going to have to be quick and decisive to handle, say, the aforementioned Romelu Lukaku or Eden Hazard or Kevin De Bruyne or any of the many other attacking options for Belgium.
One thing I've just remembered this from our group-by-group previews. One thing we noticed with Panama in the past was a lot of panicky clearances. Do you remember Felipe Beloy just bicycle kicking it up in the air?
Oh, yeah.
Attempting to clear. So maybe that gets better with Escobar, who's a bit more sure-footed than others. But I wouldn't be surprised at a lot of Belgian pressure and a lot of Panama trying to clear the ball, but it going higher in the air than farther down the field.
All right. But if they do manage to get that ball far down the field, who are they aiming for, Daryl?
There's a man down there by the name of Blas Perez. I can't remember his age.
Belgium fans, if you're listening. Belgium fans, prepare yourself.
He's either 36 or 37. He's not in the first flushes of spring, but he is a wily old veteran. Blas Perez he likes a confrontation. He likes to win balls in the air. He also likes to get people sent off. He is very good at throwing a sneaky blow and maybe getting you to retaliate and seeing a red card. So it's a big deal for Alderweireld, Vertonghen and Boyata to keep their cool as Blas Perez is throwing sneaky elbows. He's the Panamanian Diego Costa is what he is.
One thing that is worth noting, first of all, you're right. But the other thing that I hadn't really thought about, I think has been pointed out previously, so I apologize, is that Blas Perez is currently playing for CSD Municipal, not playing in Major League Soccer. I don't know if they have VAR where he is playing, so I don't know if he's used to that, but they have it here. And I do wonder if that changes some of his game plan because he can't quite get away with as much because that's going to be on video assistant referee.
Will this be the first time Blas Perez has been VAR'd?
That's what I'm wondering.
This game's going to be like 4 hours long. It's going to be like an NFL game. We can add some extra commercial breaks. Fox are going to make a lot of money on this game.
I'm excited for that one.
One final thing I'd like to say about Panama, Barcenas is probably their best winger after Quintero got injured. Barcenas plays on the right. There's a chance Barcenas gets in behind Carrasco, right? That's their one really good winger attacking threat. All right.
So that's Belgium, Panama, 11 a.m., Fox Sports 1. 2 p.m., also on Fox Sports 1. It's a Fox Sports 1 kind of day. It's Tunisia v. England. Let's start with Tunisia so that Daryl can talk about England for 40 minutes straight.
I'm going to try and be restrained on England because I went long on the group preview.
Emphasis on try.
All right, so Tunisia, I believe, 4-3-3 that collapses into a 4-5-1.
Yeah, that's enough. Let's move to England.
Here's what you need to know about Tunisia.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will press. Other times they will sit, not deep, not Sweden deep, but, behind the halfway line and block up space kind of deep.
Absolutely.
And not to wander too far into the England preview, both of those things might be a problem for England.
Yes.
They have a history of not being able to play through teams that have a crowded midfield and sit deep. And they're also, England are going to try and pass the ball out of the back as if they're a lot more talented than any England team for generations. John Stones and co will try to play the ball out of the back. If Tunisia press, that could also be a problem for England. So this is not a cakewalk for England. It's actually a very good test.
No, and that infrequent press that you're talking about caused problems for Spain and Iran in their recent friendlies. They did get caught sleeping. They did make some poor decisions that led to opportunities for Tunisia.
Yep.
So England can't afford to start slow, and they can't afford to take their foot off the gas because they can be punished for that decision making.
And let's talk about Tunisian attackers.
Sure.
Wabi Kazri is the centre forward, except he's not, but he is. Well, they've got a lot of key centre forwards injured. Basically, did not make the roster.
Yeah, the big one is Yusuf Msakani, top scorer in qualifying towards ACL in April.
But Wabi Kazri is a winger. Who was at Sunderland but was on loan in Ligue 1 last year, who started playing centre forward for his club team. I'm sorry, it's probably Rennes or Stade Rennais.
I believe you're correct.
And suddenly seems to have a knack for it.
Yeah.
So he's this centre forward who can do a bit of direct dribbling, which is especially great on the break, and some sure-footed finishing. So Wabi Kazri will be the guy to watch. Guys out wide will probably be Sliti and Badri. They'll play wide. They're also, it seems to me, they're quite capable of working back and defending. Final bit of Tunisian team news is that left back Malul is declared fit to play with a hamstring injury. That means keep an eye on his hamstrings.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Similar to Jagoev for Russia in the first
Yes.
game, was nursing a hamstring injury, pulled up, had to be subbed out. They're going to try to start Ali Malul. He is a veteran player for them. He's been there for many times for Tunisia, but whether or not he can stay on the field tomorrow, we shall find out.
If you see him grab the back of his leg, you know he's coming out. To England.
To England.
Okay. Actually, if you are Tunisia coach Nabil Malul, you will think England's key player is Dele Alli. They talked a lot about closing down Dele Alli. I don't think it's as simple as that.
Nope.
You seem to agree.
I mean, I just assumed you were ready to roll. So
I mean, I'm always ready to roll. I'm very conscious of talking too much about England. So stop me if you've heard this one before.
Okay.
As Morrissey said. So England players have been told the starting 11, according to a BBC report, and the leak/rumour suggestion is that Jordan Henderson will definitely start in the central deep-lying midfielder role. It's a 3-1-4-2 is what it's mostly been throughout the recent games. That means John Stones as the central defender, bringing the ball out of the back. Jordan Henderson just ahead of him as what I really only 10% ironically call the English Busquets, because he is the key guy to receive and distribute the ball and to keep moving the ball around and moving himself around and directing teammates where to go. I think a lot of this stuff, it's going to be Stones and Henderson combining to build the ball out of the back for England. And we've never done an England preview where that was part of their setup, right?
Nope. I will say he's wearing an England jersey tomorrow, right?
Who's that?
Jordan Henderson?
He certainly is.
Then I really like him. He's a really good player. I really do think he is a sort of an unsung, unheralded player for England. Obviously,
for club and country. I think.
I've said it before. I think I tweeted it before that he reminds me of a Paul Scholes type in the sense that he's one who everybody kind of knows is there, doesn't really do that much flash, but then 5 years from now you're going to start hearing all these think pieces about how Jordan Henderson is this underappreciated genius.
Yep. And that may be what's right about England right now, is that someone like Henderson is getting recognition, right? So you'll see a lot go through Henderson. Ahead of him, there'll be probably Dele Alli to his right, Jesse Lingard to his left. Those guys will be really good at finding space, making attacks happen. Ahead of them, Raheem Sterling. A lot of focus on him in England. He's going to be running at people. He's the guy they're looking to really create something out of nothing when that is what's needed to be done. Next to him / ahead of him, Harry Kane. Harry Kane's the man to watch, really, right? Fox Sports will be watching Harry Kane.
They will.
Yeah?
I think they should be watching Raheem Sterling.
Okay.
And I have no personal feelings, no fandom for Raheem Sterling, but I really want him to do well in this tournament. Just because I think the English media have targeted him for a variety of reasons. Some of them I do personally believe are racist. That he is the one who is the focal point of the criticism, and I would like him to come out and just silence those critics. But you know that if he comes out and struggles and maybe gets caught a couple times in possession and misses an opportunity, the tabloids are going to be rubbing their hands together with glee.
The front pages of the tabloids.
Yeah. And part of that I do want to talk about with Raheem Sterling and this England squad in general is it's sort of, I don't know, I can't tell if it's poetically fitting or not that they've drawn Tunisia, because I do think Tunisia will be more defensive, look to hit on the break, be kind of physical when the situation requires for it. It feels a little bit like Iceland Part 2.
Yes, and that's why this is a big test for England.
Exactly.
This is, can you do it against a team that doesn't open themselves up for you?
Right, and I want to see how this England team figure things out. If they get impatient or if they're just moving the ball around slowly, I want to see how they play together as a unit and try to combine and try to find creative ways to get through that defense.
One thing about Harry Kane, look out for him taking a shot when it doesn't look on, but in a good way.
Yep.
He's very good at just taking a little touch, get a bit of separation for himself, and then he's very good at finding the corners, right? He's sort of the only non-fast player even allowed on this team. And he's on there because of that ability to hit the target, hit the corners from distance, just with half an opportunity. You can make it a full opportunity.
I think one of our longest running traditions on this show now is you putting in veiled references or not even veiled references to how slow you think Harry Kane is. I don't think he's that slow.
Compared to the rest of this team, he's pretty slow. But all right, if we're going to talk Harry Kane, he is pretty slow.
Compared to a cheetah, the Roadrunner is slow. I don't know, I think, or vice versa.
Even if I'm right and he is slow, I will say he does make up for it with a lot of sort of very clever body positioning, and he's still able to drift away from people and not let them get around him. So it's all okay.
All right, so we're going to go cheetah is Raheem Sterling, leopard is Harry Kane, sloth is Joe Hart. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, sitting at home watching it.
Yeah.
So I do want to mention that England pace, though, because, again, England's never had this before. It looks like Kyle Walker is definitely going to play right centre-back. If you know Kyle Walker is a right back or a right wing back. And then John Stones next to him is going to be really fast as well. Central defence. I think Maguire will be the left centre back. It does mean if England get countered on, which is a thing that has happened to them in the past, this is the tournament. You'll see me cheering in the office. If England get countered on and it looks like a breakaway, but someone like Stones or Walker is so quick that they get back and recover.
All right.
That will be a quantum leap forward for English football if that happens.
There we are. And then one final thing I think we should talk about with England. I've observed it myself. Daryl had no knowledge of this one, but it's all about how England take free kicks. Just kidding. This is 100% Daryl's idea. Daryl, I want you to talk about it, please.
So here's a thing that's definitely been happening in the last 3 England games. They are using in-swinging free kicks when they win a free kick out wide. What that means is normally...
By the way, listeners, I'm just leaning away from my mic for the next 2 minutes. Go ahead, Daryl.
If you get a free kick on the left wing, most teams will have a left-footed player take it. They will then the left-footed player bends the ball in towards goal, tempts the goalkeeper out, and then it bends away from goal, and hopefully a player on your team gets their head to it, right? England have been doing this thing where instead of a left-footed player on the left, a right-footed player will go over there and take it. So if England get a free kick on the left, Kieran Trippier, assuming he's the right wing back, will go over and take it. So this has the effect of the ball bends first out and then in. So you lose the thing where you tempt the keeper, but you go more direct and more awkward. And I feel like here's why I think it's possibly an advantage for England is, one, I'm excited that they have a plan at all for set pieces, because I'm not sure they used to. Remember Harry Kane taking corner kicks in Euro 2016?
Oh, boy.
2, I feel like in-swinging free kicks it's so unorthodox that it's not a thing most teams face. And I think the gamble is we're going to do this thing that most teams aren't used to. And some teams may just set up for an outswinger, not even realising that this weird, backwards, awkward free kick is coming for them. So look for an England goal from an in-swinging free kick from out wide.
I don't want to put you on the spot with this one, but I will say one thing I am going to pay attention to then, because I haven't observed this as much as you have / at all, is where the England players stand in relation to the line kept by Tunisia.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, because I feel like if I'm a defender and that ball swings the way you say it does, my initial inclination is always going to be to step back because I'm going to drop back to defend it. But then if I see it swinging, I might think like, oh, I can step and get to it. And if you're an England player standing behind, they might not drop as much and then you're offside.
Yep.
Versus if you just make a straight run through and they step, suddenly you might find yourself in acres of space.
I'm not 100% confident saying this, but I think one thing I noticed was when England do this, they have a big guy on the near side. Right, like the side of the defensive line that's closest to the free kick taker, they'll have someone like, say, John Stones standing there, so that if it bends in close, then he flicks it to the far side. Okay. I really think it's a design play.
All right.
But I feel like I may have gone too deep into the weeds here. I will be wearing an England shirt while I watch this game tomorrow.
Will you really?
Yes.
All right. All right.
It's going to be the first pure fandom TSS watch party.
I'm going to wear my Crusader armor for this one.
Your Knights of the Templar armor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Tunisia, England, very much previewed.
I don't have any Crusader armor.
Perhaps more than we should have. So 2 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1.
I'll just wrap myself in aluminum foil.
All that remains, I'm just continuing with the wrap-up of the show here. All that remains to say is...
And a paper towel with a red cross on it.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners...
We've been in the office for like almost 12 hours.
Yeah.
Just got to throw that out there one more time.
Thank you for listening. Speaking of being in the office, I really feel like we've figured out a format for the show, right? Which is to mostly record after each game while it's fresh and fast. Listeners, I hope you're liking it. If you've just listened to this, it's your first show, please subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, whichever one you use, please hit subscribe. Okay, that's all from Taylor and me, all from Taylor and me, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.